The original Dark Souls is known for its unforgiving difficulty for newcomers, its memorable boss battles, and its jank. Loads and loads of jank. Whenever you see discourse about the game online, it's typically centered around one of these three factors. However, there is another aspect of the game that is often underappreciated: the sheer weapon variety. There are over 20 classes of weapons in Dark Souls, and each one contains several weapons that are powerful all the way to the endgame. Whether it's using the famous Zweihander, any of the Black Knight weapons, or even a basic straight sword, it's possible to comfortably beat the entire game without needing to worry about damage or range. However, there are certain weapons that straight up don't make the pay grade, and today I'll be talking about one of them, the Mailbreaker. The Mailbreaker belongs to the piercing sword category, and it is without question the worst one in the game. Terrible damage, low range, and even no kick to deal with shielded enemies. It is normally obsolete as soon as you get it, and it is miserable to play with, which is why I decided to push it to its ultimate limit. My name is Alderius, and today I'll be answering the question, can you beat Dark Souls 1 with just the Mailbreaker? Here are the rules for the run. All direct damage must come from the Mailbreaker, or until it is available, bare fists. Kill all bosses, no summons, no shields, no spells, and no temporary weapon buffs like pine resin. As we get into the run proper, I will admit that as my first recorded challenge run, I did not do in-depth routing. So if you see some head-scratching decisions, that's why. For character creation, I chose the appropriate name MAILMAN, and I went with the Hunter class. There are actually several classes in this game that have the necessary stats to equip the Mailbreaker from the start, but I chose Hunter simply because I don't usually start as one. Yeah, that's it. If that doesn't clue you in at how little I routed this ahead of time, I don't know what will. The starting gift is Master Key. It's not required, but it does enable getting the Mailbreaker without glitches and without cheesing Taurus Demon with gravity. The general leveling goal for this run is to boost dexterity to reach the two soft caps of 20, then 40, while maintaining a healthy amount of vigor and endurance. Remember, this is Dark Souls 1, where half the stats will be useless to melee characters, so stat distribution is quite simplistic. As we zone into the Undead Asylum, we immediately run into a problem. The Mailbreaker is in fact a nowhere here, so that means we need to deal with Asylum Demon with nothing but our bare fists. Luckily, as the literal first boss and tutorial for the game, the Asylum Demon has a woefully lacking moveset. In the more recent Souls games, bosses have like 5 different moves to attack you, even when you're behind them, but these were simpler times. All we need to do is get behind him, and he literally cannot touch us. We begin the fight by landing the falling attack for a humongous 30 damage, then it's off to give his big booty a few slaps. Oh, by the way, we deal 2 damage per hit. 2 damage! Yeah. After a very brisk 16.5 minutes, Asylum Demon goes down, and we're free to head to Firelink. Don't worry, that's the one and only boss fight in the whole trilogy we need to slap down with our bare hands. Now at Firelink, our immediate goal is to get to the Mailbreaker, since blasting enemies 2 damage at a time turns out to not be that stimulating. Who would have guessed? The Mailbreaker is in the lower Undead Burg, and normally to get there you need to kill Taurus Demon, head to the Undead Parish Gate, grab the basement key, and lock the door next to Solaire. However, for this run I did not want to cheese Taurus with gravity, so I decided to go a much longer route so I could get a proper fight with him. Oh boy, buckle in. Start normally by heading past the hollows up the stairs, travel through the sewage passageway, and make it to the first bonfire. Then cross the narrow bridge and run past all the enemies until the tower where you'd normally enter the Taurus fight. This door can be unlocked with the Master Key. Head down the tower, avoid getting pancaked by Havel, exit the Darkroot Basin, avoid drowning in Hydra saliva, walk all the way up into the Darkroot Garden, walk towards the intended entrance to the zone via the Undead Parish, and skirt past the Titanite Demon. Pass by the amazing chest ahead to the parish proper and grab the basement key. Then progress through the rest of the area in reverse, going down to the rat section and making it to the bridge directly above the first bonfire. Cross the bridge, say hi to Solaire because you're a piece of garbage if you don't, and finally, open the way to Lower Undead Burg. Goodness. By the way, after the run I found out that you can fairly easily skip your way to the Lower Undead Burg from above, using a jump with virtually zero risk to yourself. So, yeah, all of this turned out to be totally pointless, but hey, I warned you. The dogs in the lower end of Berg are a real threat, so to deal with that, we position ourselves right next to this warm and cozy fire, and watch as the dogs unfortunately fly a little too close to the sun and burn to a crisp. Then we can activate the first ambush, and in this house to the right lies our ultimate prize, the Mailbreaker. Oh yeah, time to turn this game into London Simulator. Let's talk a bit about this weapon. It requires 5 dexterity and 12 strength, and it has 57 damage. Yep, that's it. A full 21 points worse than the short sword that we start the game with. But it must have better scaling to compensate, right? Nope. DC scaling versus the short sword CC scaling. Also, it is a thrust weapon, which sometimes works out in our favor, but also means it is absolutely terrible in fighting multiple enemies at a time. There's almost a 0% chance of collateral damage with this glorified toothpick. Also, for reasons known only to Miyazaki himself, the Mailbreaker replaces the kick with this gimpy feint attack. It can't even deal with shield users because of this. This isn't Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not trying to have a swashbuckling duel or something. Combine all that with a low range, and you got yourself a certified bad time. But, at the very least, it has a fast attack speed, and like all piercing swords, it has a fantastic critical modifier, meaning that backstabs hit quite hard actually. Now that we have the weapon, it's time to properly deal with Taurus Demon. So instead of cheesing him with gravity, I decided to take the high road. Literally, I cheese him with plunging attacks instead. Good old Dark Souls 1 and its experimental boss design. After several bait and switches, we successfully give Taurus enough of a headache to take him out permanently. After Taurus, I decided to get Bell Gargoyles out of the way next. But since the Gargoyles are usually a DPS race, and I'm using the Dark Fantasy equivalent of a toothpick, that could be a huge problem. So I decided to pay a visit to the ultimate homie, Andre the Blacksmith. He sells Titanite shards, so I buy enough to get the Mailbreaker upgrade to +5, hoping that somehow, some way, that would be enough to kill the first Gargoyle before the second one arrives. So we head up the parish, and after the Channeler does his best Moog impression on us, we finally arrive at the Gargoyles fight. So how's our new DPS? It's okay. Nothing special. I mean, after 5 upgrades, it's pretty underwhelming, but at least it's something. The bigger problem, though, is that terrible range again. It's nearly impossible to hit the Gargoyle while it's flailing around. At this point, I instantly knew that I would need to fight both Gargoyles at once. So you know what that means. Time to run around the arena all day like a mad lad. My strategy was to wait for one Gargoyle to get stuck in a fire animation, then have the other Gargoyle do an attack that I could easily roll. Then I would have time to get 1 or 2 attacks off on the stationary Gargoyle. After a few minutes of this, one Gargoyle goes down. Then, it's only a matter of time before the deal is sealed. With the Gargoyles down, I try to head over to Darkroot Garden and deal with the Moonlight Butterfly fight, since it's so close to the bonfire. This was a terrible idea. The shotgun attack would just tear me to shreds, and I ran out of healing far before I could take it down. Unfortunately, this boss will have to wait his turn to die. So I set my eyes on the next logical boss to kill, Pinwheel. Yep, that's right. I sprayed my way past the graveyard, and making sure not to touch a single bonfire, I used the quick descent in the catacombs to get to the boss. Don't ask how I pulled this off despite not knowing the much simpler lower undead Berg jump, it's better off that way. So why exactly did I come all the way down to Pinwheel? Well, he drops the Rite of Kindling, which allows for 20 Estus flasks, as well as one of 3 useful head items, so it seemed pertinent to kill him as soon as possible. As for the fight itself, I mean, did you know this guy has actual mechanics? Yeah, when you don't obliterate him with near endgame gear like usual, you actually see him do things. Crazy, right? He constantly summons 2 clones that die to a stiff wind. Literally a single hit dispels them. He even has an enrage at low health where he fills the whole room. Luckily, like an extended family gathering where nobody knows anyone, the clones just bumble around, making for easy pickings. After all the clones are cleared, the real Pinwheel goes down. He drops Mask of the Father, which gives me more equip load. Great. Not exactly the biggest game changer in this run. I am then able to homeward bone out back to Firelink, since I ignored all bonfires on the way down. Alright. Finally it's time to deal with Capra Demon. After heading all the way back to the lower end of Berg, and getting cornered on a flat wall somehow, thanks Miyazaki, I make it to the boss room. Only to miss the dodge roll, get cornered again, then die again. Classic Capra. In all seriousness though, this fight is not too bad. Just make sure to land the first dodge roll, then roll spam your way to the stairs and head to this ledge. Nearly died at 2 dogs, heal up, and wait for the dogs to come up and finish them off one at a time. Then simply pull a Taurus Demon and repeatedly plunge attack Capra until he's dead. Within the depths is only one boss, Gaping Dragon. So naturally I head for it next, making sure to kill the channeler above the arena to eliminate any funny business with him. Gaping Dragon is very easy. Just bait out a charge and hit it in the back legs until it's dead. You can also hit it in the head briefly for extra damage, and to experience one of the amazing Dark Souls 1 hitboxes in action. In any case, it dies without much fuss. Only 8 minutes this time. Wow. This run, that's crazy fast. Next is Quelaag down in Blighttown, but there's a catch. Going through the front entrance requires dealing with several blow dart snipers, which give you the infamous toxic debuff. Normally they're easy to dislodge and kill with a backup bow, but since the Mailbreaker is not a bow, we literally have no way to deal with most of them besides running past and praying that they don't hit. Not a very fun strategy. Luckily, the Master Key comes in clutch yet again. Head back to Firelink Shrine and go down to New Londo Ruins. Use the key to unlock this door, and now we can instead go through the back entrance of Blighttown, where only one easily avoidable sniper stands in the way. Seriously, the Master Key is the de facto best starting gift in this game, don't at me. Now, after watching the Quelaag cutscene for no particular reason, we're ready to fight. The safest way to deal with her is to attack from the side. One small problem though, 28 damage. Yeah, we're back to the chip damage already. I knew the run would eventually devolve into this, but I did not expect it this early. So I hope you like another 10-minute boss fight. After poking and poking and poking, eventually she goes down. Now, with both bells rung, the way to Sen's Fortress is open. Before that, though, I decided to kill Ceaseless Discharge for some free and easy souls. This fight has a famous cheese to it that the developers intentionally included. Just dodge the initial attack, head for the entrance to the arena, wait for Ceaseless to jump towards you, and simply hit his arm a few times. And that's it. He falls to his death. What a joke. The armor set here is also quite strong for its low weight, so I equip all of it except the headpiece. And with that, the early game is officially done. After making the extremely long trek back to Sen's Fortress, the navigation is pretty standard. Sen's is all about patience and analyzing the timing of each trap, and having a gimped weapon doesn't change any of that. I do decide to farm this Baronite Knight at the top of the fortress, since it drops large Titanite shards. After farming 9, I head back down the fortress to upgrade the Mailbreaker to plus 10. It does mean I have to experience the fun of Sen's Fortress a second time, but the increased damage is nearly essential for Enter London. Before going back up the fortress though, I decide to go back and clean up a few things in Darkroot Garden. First, I buy the seal from Andre and use it to open the stone door. Then I talk to the big cat Alvina and join the Forest Hunter Covenant. Doing so spawns a few NPCs, including this ninja NPC located suspiciously close to a cliff. By unequipping my weapon and channeling my inner Lautrec, I kindly escort this ninja to the bottom of the cliff. Quitting and reloading spawns his loot right here, and I grab the Darkwood Grain Ring. This replaces the roll animation with a sweet front flip animation, which is not only more stylish, but also offers 2 more iframes, raising it from 12 to 14, and lowers the roll recovery frames from 12 to 8. Then, with my newfound power, I decide to fight Moonlight Butterfly again. I still get clapped by that dumb shotgun attack occasionally, but with 20 flasks, a stronger roll, and cleaner execution, it's only a matter of time before the butterfly goes down. Then, after braving Sen's Fortress one last time, I try to take down Iron Golem. The fight, like most of the fights before, is not that hard, but it is a tedious grind. This time I do a whopping 31 damage per hit. Plus 10 weapon, by the way. After dodging from the front to back 100 times and failing to knock him off the cliff, he eventually goes down without much issue. By the way, get used to these damage numbers from here on out, especially if the boss has armor. On to Anor Londo, probably the best area in the game. As surprising as it may sound, not a whole lot changes with the trash weapon here. The route is essentially the same, and the humanoid enemies are all backstabbable, so the high critical modifier pays off. Head to the side chapel, kill the painting guardians by cutting them to the beginning safe area, cross the rafters, head up the main stairs, and run past the Batwing demons. This archer section, although infamous, is actually fairly simple. Wait for the right archer's arrow to land, and sprint up the path. Walk right up to the archer to force him to draw his melee weapon, then back away as he falls to his death. After that, it's standard fare to get to one of the hardest fights in the run, Ornstein and Smough. This fight is obviously tough on its own, but an added wrinkle is that Smough needs to die first, leaving Ornstein empowered. This is because empowered Ornstein drops the Leo Ring, which is by far the single largest damage increase in the run. As a brief explanation, in Dark Souls you deal about 20% more damage to an enemy if you're using a thrust weapon, and the enemy is at a certain point of an attack animation. The timing depends on the animation itself. The ring boosts that multiplicatively to about 68% more damage, a humongous gain for certain bosses. Now for the actual fight. Regardless of the kill target, the goal is always to keep both of them in frame as much as possible, waiting for Ornstein to displace himself with an attack. Smough's massive hitbox can be used to your advantage, so positioning him between Ornstein and the player can cause Ornstein to whiff a lot of his attacks, making the fight way easier. After several minutes of manipulating their positions, Smough goes down, and it's time to 1v1 empowered Ornstein. The big problem with Ornstein is his grab, so it's important to stay behind him under his legs. Doing this causes him to whiff almost all his spear attacks as well. If he does a small squat, he's about to jump in the air, so leave the area and wait for him to land before going back in. Also, he can jump several times in a row, so yeah, that's just great. In any case, despite the chip damage, again, it's generally a lot easier to fight a 1v1 than a 2v1 in these games, so eventually, Ornstein goes down. With that, we get the Leo Ring and the coveted Lord Vessel, so we can finally warp around the map. Heavy backtracking is officially done. The rest of the run is quite fast with the warping capabilities of the Lord Vessel. First, I head back to the Asylum for two reasons: to kill the Stray Demon boss, and to get the peculiar doll for the painted one. There really isn't much to say about Stray Demon. He's essentially the same as the Asylum Demon, so once again, just get behind him and he's helpless. This time, some of his magic attacks can reach behind him though, so you need to back off every now and then, but it's still a joke of a fight. Head to the room next door and grab the peculiar doll. Now the Asylum is completely done. After messing around briefly in the Great Hollow and Ash Lake, and discovering that the Hydra has this trippy lake crossing animation that has to be one of the rarest animations in the game, I decided to drain the water level in New Long. This is because the Dark Wraith Knights in the area drop Titanite chunks, which will finish the upgrades for the Mailbreaker. So after talking to Ingward and lowering the water level, I decided to farm the Dark Wraiths until I have enough chunks. Then, using those chunks and the slab from the Stray Demon, I get the Mailbreaker to plus 15. Look at that glorious 142 damage. That's what's up. Of the four Lord Souls, I decided to tackle Nito first, mostly because he was the one I was dreading the most at the start of the run. The Catacombs are business as usual, making sure to pick up the Darkmoon Seance Ring for the Gwendolyn boss later. Upon navigating the Tomb of Giants, which essentially is no different from a normal run, I make it to his boss arena. Nito is a serious problem because he is located in a room with several skeletons that cannot be permanently killed except with divine weapons. This includes some giant skeletons, which are a serious problem when aggroed since they will gladly combo with Nito and lead to a rapid death. Luckily, there is a minor trick that makes the fight way easier. By staying towards the entrance and forcing Nito to come, the larger skeletons at the back of the arena do not pull. As long as I carefully stick to the back wall and don't venture too far into the cave, then only a few small skeletons interfere with the fight. Nito cannot really be hit from behind, so it requires dodging his sword attacks to get hits from the front. Being smushed against the wall makes this a lot riskier. His explosions kill the skeletons temporarily, but also cannot always be avoided due to the limited space, so sometimes I have to tank a hit. Then the skeletons would get up and hit me while I was trying to attack Nito. Overall, Nito is very annoying still and by far the closest boss fight, but in the end, he still died on the first try. Now it's time to clean up the rest of the bosses in Anor Londo and the Painted World, starting with Gwyndolin. By equipping the Dark Moon Seance Ring at the tomb in Anor Londo, I can face him. This fight is normally very annoying as well, with Gwyndolin constantly running away from you as he pelts you with arrows and magic spears. With the Mailbreaker, what a surprise, it's still annoying! However, with all the running, at least it's possible to leverage a special dash attack animation for big damage. This fight really is just a test of dodging and strafing, with virtually zero shakeups or surprises. No matter what weapon is used, after a while, Gwyndolin gets tired and dies all the same. Next is Priscilla, using the doll from earlier to enter the Painted World in a scene that gives me Expedition 33 PTSD. This section is extremely fast. I progress as normal until getting to the broken bridge, then I use the skip to quickly get to the boss room. Priscilla is highly obnoxious, since the Mailbreaker has virtually no horizontal hitboxes, and therefore it's surprisingly hard to land hits on her while she's invisible. But she's also very slow, so backing off and healing is always an option. After a few minutes of prodding at nothing, she goes down. The next goal is the second Lord Soul from VIII the Scaleless. Before going to the Duke's Archives, however, I decided to get the DLC questline going since it involves going to the Archives as well. That means fighting the Hydra. And yes, that was as miserable as it sounds. Tons and tons of whiffs trying to nab the last Hydra head. Like two ships passing in the night, we just kept missing each other. Over and over and over. Man, this Hydra has the accuracy of your opinions on the internet. Finally, after several minutes, I was able to land the killing blow and move on. After killing the Gold Golem and talking to Dusk, it's time to head over to Duke's Archives. This is another very quick area. After moving forward and performing the scripted VIII death, we break out of prison, find the key to the exit, leave the prison, go outside, enter the Crystal Caves, and walk along the pathways to reach VIII. VIII is yet another simplistic boss. All that needs to be done is to stay in front of him and weave around the crystal paths he creates. When he's charging a blue ball of light, get far away from him to dodge the outwardly radiating crystals. And yeah, that's it. Huh. Gotta love the Rush Dark Souls 1 endgame. Then there's the three bosses in the widely loved lava zones, Demon Ruins and Lost Izalith, yay! Really, there's not much to say here, so I'll be quick. Demon Fire Sage is quite literally a copy and paste of Stray Demon. Literally. They have the exact same moves. So once again, for the third time, stay behind him and it's not a win. Centipede Demon is intimidating at first, but there's a patch of ground to the right of the entrance that is sufficiently deep to fight him, so cross the lava and take the fight to him there. Then it's just a matter of staying behind his legs and dodging his repeated attempts to Goomba Stomp your head. Nothing too serious. Finally, there's the sole reason this game is A tier at best and not S tier, the beautiful Beta Chaos. This fight is just as terrible as it usually is, except with the added benefit of no cheesing the bugs from range. Great! So it's a simple matter of killing the right bug first, then killing the left bug, then jumping to the center route to get to the final bug. Of course, with several fun and skill-based deaths along the way as usual. Thanks, Miyazaki! At this point, there's only the DLC bosses, Civ, the Four Kings, and Gwyn left. I decided to leave Four Kings alone, especially since that fight is the largest DPS race in the game, and I needed every bit of stats to survive it. So it's on to the DLC, starting off with Sanctuary Guardian. This fight revolves around dodging towards the Guardian to land near its back and sides for free hits, watching out for the Poison Tail. When he does his Wind Wing move, that's a prime time to get plenty of damage on him. Due to his lack of armor, the damage from the Mailbreaker actually is respectable. All in all, he dies without incident. After a bit of running around Oolacile, we get our Night Rain practice in by fighting Artorias. And to be honest, this was kind of a disaster. I screwed up the beginning of this fight really badly. I went in with 14 flasks since I was too lazy to go back and refresh the count. I kept getting heal punished over and over at the start until I had just 4 flasks left. It was quite embarrassing just how hard he bodied me at the start. But the beautiful thing about Artorias is that almost all of his abilities are well telegraphed, so it's totally possible to refocus and regain the upper hand. That's exactly what I had to do to salvage the attempt. I repeatedly punished his vertical overhead swing attack, his thrust attack, and his leap attacks, which are the easiest moves. The Darkwood Grain Ring really came in clutch here. After a grueling battle with no flasks left and even 1 humanity heal, I managed to take him down. Not even close. In terms of movement, the rest of the DLC play out the same as usual up to the last 2 bosses. I will note that I did not use the silver pendant in this run, which helps against Manus, and to be honest, I didn't even know about that item until a viewer told me midway through the run. I always just fought Manus straight up, so I did it here as well. Before fighting him though, I wanted to free Civ, mostly so I could see the alternate cutscene later. Manus was an absolute pain as usual. The arena is nearly pitch black, and so is most of his model, so trying to observe his attacks past the darkness and his weird, wavy abyss hand was tough. Pair that with a thrusting weapon that has nearly 0 horizontal presence, and you have a fun time indeed. Thankfully the devs programmed his combo attack so that the first hit you take deals full damage, but the rest of the combo deals significantly less. Otherwise, to be honest, I would have died multiple times. Bonus damage from the Leo Ring puts in serious work. I got lucky with his Abyssal Hexes as well. The Shotgun Hex and the Rain Hex are both reasonably dodgeable, and he only used the Lethal Ring Hex once at the very end of the fight. After a grueling 7.5 minutes, he goes down. Despite first trying him, Manus was definitely the hardest fight of this run. So far. Then it's on to my personal favorite fight in the game, Calamite. After he generously imparts the knowledge of pyromancy all over my body, I tattletale on him to go, and Calamite gets grounded. This fight is still great, even with a weapon that does a paltry 65 damage at times. For a dragon, all its attacks are easily telegraphed and have clean hitboxes. Even the overhead flame has a recognizable animation and is 100% avoidable by running from the center. The Mailbreaker makes it hard to hit him, like with almost all these bosses, and the damage is definitely subpar. But Calamite does not have many combos that can kill from full health, so it's mostly a test of dodging and patience. After 6 minutes, the Ancient Dragon goes down, and with that, the DLC is complete. Time to wrap up the base game and put a bow tie on this run. First was Sif, after watching the sad alternate cutscene, of course. Although the lore behind Sif is epic, the fight, sadly, is not. All you have to do is roll underneath him, and he can't hurt you. Occasionally, he'll jump away to get a better angle of attack, but then he can just run up and do it again. Sure, the Mailbreaker makes it hard as usual to land hits, but it really doesn't matter how hard it is to land hits if the boss can't land any on you. Sif goes down without much fanfare. Still the best boy though. Now for the boss that requires the most setup. The Four Kings. Due to the heavy DPS nature of this fight, in order to stand any chance with this dinky kids meal toy, it's time to exploit one of the strongest mechanics in Dark Souls 1, poise. In this game, if you have a high enough poise, you can straight up tank a few attacks from enemies before your own animations get interrupted, meaning that you can brute force through fights and maximize damage per second. The downside, of course, is that heavy poise armor is typically heavy weight as well, so you pay in a much worse dodge roll. With all this in mind, I went back to Anor Londo and opened the secret room near the Solaire bonfire, collecting the full Havel set with its juicy poise. With the equip load completely obliterated, I replaced the Darkwood Grain Ring with a Covenant of Artorias, allowing entry to the boss arena. The plan for 4 Kings was mind-numbingly simple. Using the Max Boys Havel set and the counter-attack damage from the Leo Ring, the goal is to spam light attacks in the face of each king and hope that they die before spawns begin to overlap. Even with all this setup, each king took longer than anticipated, but each indeed died before backup arrived. It's not the most elegant solution, but it definitely gets the job done. With the 4 kings sent to the actual abyss, all that stands in the way of victory is Gwyn, the first Elden... sorry, wrong game, we're not there yet. The first to kindle the flame. After using the 4 Lord Souls to open passage to the kiln of the first flame, and during the rather obnoxious run-up that would be standard in Dark Souls 2, stay tuned for that by the way, it's time for the final showdown with Gwyn. And he totally dumpstered me on the first attempt. Seriously, it was not even close. With the low poise damage of the Mailbreaker and the inability to parry, Gwyn suddenly became a force to be reckoned with. All avenues of cheese were gone. For the first time ever, I had to genuinely get good at this fight. Gwyn's attacks are generally fast and dangerous, with the main slash attack taking a humongous chunk of health despite the high fire resistance of my armor. With his long fire sword and my short Mailbreaker, outranging him was literally impossible as well. His offensive prowess is unmatched. Gwyn is infamous for having the most heal punishes in the game, possibly in all Soulsborne games. It was excruciatingly difficult to get a heal off. They even spent several minutes at the end of the fight trying to get a heal off and having the health stick. Yeah, that's right. Several minutes just to heal. Inevitably though, I found some weaknesses in his defense. Attacking after his jump attack or his grab would generally let me get 2 full hits in before his furious assault began. So I ran around the arena like a cuck, baiting these 2 attacks so I could get a reliable source of damage. He would still clip me with the occasional fast swing or thrust attack, but the ample Estus Flask from the Rite of Kindling gave a ton of wiggle room. And finally, after 11 minutes of cat and mouse gameplay, Gwyn goes down. This mailman's delivery route is finally over. In conclusion, don't use this weapon. Thanks, bye.